This story may be based on true events, so listen to it until the end. And now welcome to the story of the house at the end of Blackbone Lane. The rain came down in thick silver sheets, turning the narrow road into a river of black water and mud. You pulled your coat tighter, but the cold had already seeped into your bones. The storm had come out of nowhere, and now you were lost miles from any town, with only the flickering beam of your dying flashlight to guide you. That's when you saw it, the house at the end of Blackbone Lane. It stood crooked, its roof sagging under the weight of the downpour, its windows dark and hollow like the eyes of a long-dead thing. The gate hung open, rusted hinges screaming as the wind pushed it back and forth. You shouldn't go in. Every nerve in your body screamed at you to turn back, to brave the storm instead. But the rain was relentless, and the night was swallowing the world whole. The first step onto the porch made the wood groan beneath your feet. The second made the air grow still, as if the house itself was holding its breath. The door was already ajar, the darkness inside thick and waiting. You stepped inside. The smell hit you first. Damp rot, old copper, something sweet and spoiled beneath it. The floorboards creaked under your weight, whispering secrets to the walls. Your flashlight flickered, casting long, trembling shadows that slithered along the peeling wallpaper. Something moved in the corner of your vision, but when you turned, there was nothing. Just the house, watching. A sound from upstairs. A slow, dragging scrape, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. Then silence. Then drip, drip, drip. Not rain. Too thick for rain. Your breath came shallow as you followed the noise, each step taking you deeper into the belly of the house. The stairs groaned under your weight, the banister sticky under your fingers. At the top, a hallway stretched into blackness, doors hanging open like slack jaws. The dripping was louder now, coming from the last door on the left. You shouldn't go in. But you did. The room was empty, mostly. A rusted bed frame, a shattered mirror, and in the far corner, a stain. Dark, spreading. The dripping came from above. You raised your flashlight. The ceiling was wet. No, not wet. Breathing. Pulsing. Something shifted in the shadows above. Something with too many limbs. Its skin slick and glistening in the dim light. It uncurled slowly, joints popping, a low, wet sound gurgling from its throat as it turned its face, if it could be called a face, toward you. Your flashlight died. The last thing you felt was the cold, skeletal fingers closing around your ankle as the thing dropped from the ceiling, its breath hot and rancid against your skin as it whispered, "You shouldn't have come inside." Outside, the rain kept falling. The house stood silent, waiting for the next lost soul to step through its door. The rain hammered against the roof like 1,000 skeletal fingers tapping, relentless, as if the storm itself was trying to drown out the screams. But there were no screams, not anymore, just the quiet, wet sound of something moving in the dark. You ran. The forest outside the house swallowed you whole, branches clawing at your clothes, roots snaking around your ankles like bony hands trying to drag you down. The flashlight was gone, lost in the house, but the moon, when it broke through the storm clouds, cast a sickly glow over the trees, turning them into twisted sentinels watching your every step. You didn't know where you were going, just away. Then you heard it, a whisper carried on the wind, not from behind you, from ahead. It wasn't words, not really, just a sound, low and guttural, like something trying to remember how to speak. The trees grew denser, the air thicker until you burst into a clearing and froze. A figure stood in the center, its back to you, shoulders hunched under a tattered coat. The rain slid off it in oily rivulets, pooling at its feet in dark, swirling patterns. You took a step back. A twig snapped. The figure turned. Its face was a nightmare of stretched, pallid skin, mouth sewn shut with blackened wire, eyes nothing but hollow pits. But worst of all, it wasn't alone. Shapes emerged from the trees, dozens of them. Some tall, some crawling, some with too many limbs, some with none at all of them watching. The first figure raised a hand, fingers too long, joints bending the wrong way. Pointed not at you, past you. You turned. The house stood there impossibly at the edge of the clearing. The front door yawned open, darkness pooling out like blood from a wound. And inside, something waited. The rain fell harder. The figures closed in. You had a choice. The house. Or them. Neither was safe. But the house was hungry. And it remembered you. The wind howled through the trees like a chorus of the damned as you stood frozen between the horrors closing in from the forest and the yawning darkness of the house. The rain stung your face, mixing with the salt of terrified tears. Every instinct screamed to run. But where? Then the house breathed. A deep, shuddering sigh rolled through the rotting timbers, and the door creaked wider, beckoning. The thing inside was patient. It knew you'd choose it, because the alternatives out here in the storm were worse. You took a step back toward the porch. The sewn-mouthed figure lurched forward, its wire stitches straining as its jaw worked beneath them, trying to speak. The others followed, their movements unnatural, spider-like, twitching, bones snapping and reforming with each step. You bolted. The porch steps splintered under your weight as you crashed through the doorway, slamming the door behind you. The wood was ice cold, the handle rattling as something heavy thudded against it from the other side. Then silence. The air inside was thick with the scent of mildew and something metallic. Your breath fogged in front of you, though the cold was deeper than winter, deeper than anything natural. A slow drip, drip, drip echoed from upstairs. You were trapped. Then the walls began to bleed. Dark, viscous liquid seeped from the cracks in the wallpaper, oozing down in thick rivulets. The floorboards groaned, warping under an unseen weight, and from the shadows at the top of the stairs, a shape emerged, long, spindly limbs unfolding like a nightmare puppet. It wasn't the same thing from before. This one was worse. Its head tilted, too many eyes glistening in the dark, its mouth splitting into a grin of needle-thin teeth. It didn't speak. It didn't have to. You backed toward the door, but the knob wouldn't turn. Outside, the rain suddenly stopped. And then, from the forest, came the sound of something laughing. The house creaked, its foundations shifting, walls pressing inward like a closing fist. The thing on the stairs dropped to all fours, bones cracking as it scuttled toward you. You were right where it wanted you, and the storm was only just beginning. The laughter from the forest coiled around the house like a noose, tightening with every ragged breath you took. The walls pulsed now, alive with some terrible rhythm, the blackened liquid oozing faster, thick, warm, and reeking of rust. You wiped your hands against your coat, but the stains wouldn't come off. Then the whispers started, not from the thing on the stairs, from inside your head. You were always going to come back. They murmured, voices overlapping, some familiar, some never human to begin with. You were always ours. The thing on the stairs twitched, its grin widening until the skin at the corners of its mouth split with a wet rip. It took another step down, its elongated fingers dragging against the peeling wallpaper, leaving behind smears of something glistening. You threw your shoulder against the door, panic turning your muscles to fire, but it didn't budge. The wood had fused to the frame, seams sealed tight like scar tissue. A floorboard snapped behind you. You whipped around. The ceiling was moving, not just the thing up there, the entire ceiling. It rippled, sagging lower, the plaster stretching like skin over a festering wound. Something pressed against it from the other side, something massive, its outline distorting the surface. A hand? A face? The thing on the stairs let out a wet, clicking sound. Laughing. Then the front window shattered. Not from the storm, from the inside out. Shards of glass exploded into the night as a skeletal figure hauled itself through the frame. Its body a tangle of broken limbs. Its neck twisted at an impossible angle. It hit the floor with a crunch, then stood, vertebrae popping as it righted itself. Outside, the others were coming. The sewn-mouth figure, the crawling things, the ones with too many eyes. They weren't just waiting anymore. They were inviting themselves in. The house shuddered, a deep, guttural moan vibrating through the floorboards. The walls flexed, the air growing thick with the scent of burning hair. The thing on the stairs lunged. You did the only thing left. You ran up. The stairs buckled under your weight, steps cracking like ribs as you hurled yourself toward the second floor. Behind you, the front door splintered open, the things from the forest pouring inside, their voices a chorus of broken syllables, their hands grasping, clawing. You hit the landing and crashed into a room, slamming the door shut just as something heavy thudded against it. The wood wouldn't hold. Nothing here would. The window. You scrambled toward it, fingers slipping on the rain-slick glass as you shoved it open. The storm roared in your ears, the wind howling like a thing in pain. The drop was far, the ground below a mess of jagged rocks and gnarled roots. But staying here, that wasn't an option. You swung your legs over the sill just as the door behind you shattered. The last thing you saw before you jumped was the thing on the stairs, its grin stretching ear to ear, its voice slithering after you as you fell. We'll be waiting. Then the ground rushed up to meet you. And the house? It laughed. The impact never came. One moment you were falling, wind screaming past your ears, the jagged teeth of the forest floor rushing up to meet you, and the next, silence. You were standing in the foyer of the house again. The door was still open. The rain still fell in sheets. The same rusted hinges swayed in the wind, creaking their familiar, mocking song. Welcome back. Your breath came in ragged gasps, fingers trembling as you reached up to touch your own face, just to make sure you were still real. The air smelled of wet earth and copper, thick with the weight of something ancient stirring in the walls. A whisper from the kitchen this time. You can't leave. Not a threat. A fact. The floorboards groaned beneath you as you turned, slow, terrified, toward the hallway. The door at the end, the one with the stain, was open now. And something was leaking out of it. Dark, viscous. Not blood. Something worse. It slithered across the floor in thick, ropey strands, pulsing as it moved, tendrils questing like the roots of some malignant plant. You backed toward the door, but it slammed shut behind you, the lock clicking with finality. The house wanted you to see this. The thing in the hallway stirred. At first, it was just a shadow, a distortion in the air, a trick of the dim, flickering light. Then it stretched, limbs unfolding from the darkness like a spider emerging from its nest. Too many joints, too many teeth. It didn't walk. It unfolded. One moment it was at the end of the hall. The next, it was right in front of you, its breath like rotting flowers, its eyes. Oh God, its eyes, they were yours. Your own face stared back at you, stretched across that nightmare skull, lips peeled back in a rictus grin. You've always been here, it whispered, its voice a perfect mimic of your own. And then, a hand on your shoulder. You spun, heart hammering, only to come face to face with yourself. Another you, pale, smiling, eyes black and wrong. "We've been waiting for you," it said. From the kitchen, another voice echoed. "We've always been waiting." You turned. There were more of them now. Dozens. All grinning, all stepping closer, their hands outstretched, fingers brushing your arms, your face, your chest. "You're home," they whispered. And then the house screamed. The walls split open, the ceiling yawned wide, and the darkness swallowed you whole. Outside, the rain slowed, then stopped. The house stood silent, waiting for the next one, for you, because you'll be back. You always come back. The first thing you noticed when you woke was the smell. Damp wood, old copper, that same sickly sweet rot that clung to the back of your throat like a memory you couldn't shake. The second thing you noticed, you weren't outside anymore. You were in the bedroom. The bedroom, the one with the stain, the one with the thing that had dropped from the ceiling. Except now the bed was made. The sheets were crisp, white, clean, and you were lying in it. Your pulse hammered in your ears as you sat up, the mattress groaning beneath you. The room was different. Not decayed, not ruined, but lived in. A wardrobe stood against the far wall, its mirror reflecting the flickering glow of an oil lamp on the nightstand. There was no lamp when you first came in. There was no nightstand. A floorboard creaked in the hallway. You weren't alone. The air grew thick, syrupy, like the house itself was holding its breath. The door, which had been wide open moments ago, was now closed, and something was knocking. 3 soft raps, polite, patient, tap, tap, tap. Your mouth went dry. "Who's there?" you whispered. The knocking stopped. Then, from the other side of the door, a voice, soft, familiar, wrong, answered. You know who. Your own voice. The handle turned. You scrambled back against the headboard, fingers clawing at the sheets, but there was nowhere to go. The door swung open with a sigh, revealing the hallway beyond, stretching farther than it should, the walls warping, the floor tilting at an impossible angle. And standing in the threshold, you, or something wearing your face. Its skin was too smooth, its smile too wide, its eyes too dark. Took a step forward, and the floorboards didn't creak. They whimpered. You're finally awake, it said, tilting its head. We've been waiting. The word slithered through the room like a living thing. Behind it, shadows moved. Figures peeled themselves from the walls, stepping into the dim light. More of them. All you, all smiling, all wrong. The first one reached out, its fingers brushing your cheek. Cold, so cold. Don't be afraid, it murmured. This is where you belong. The others echoed the words, their voices overlapping, twisting together until they became something else. Something deeper, something hungry. The walls began to breathe. The ceiling flexed. And the stain in the corner? It grew. Dark tendrils snaked across the floor, climbing the bedposts, wrapping around your wrists like shackles. The thing wearing your face leaned in, its lips brushing your ear as it whispered. The house remembers. The house always remembers. Then the world split open. The walls dissolved. The floor fell away. And you were falling, tumbling through darkness, through memories that weren't yours. A child laughing in the hallway. A woman screaming in the kitchen. A man sobbing in the basement. Over and over. Again and again. All of them. All you. All trapped. Asterisk. You hit the ground. Hard. Gasping, you looked up and found yourself back in the foyer. The front door was open. The rain still fell. And the house? It waited. Because this was how it always ended. This was how it always began. You could run. You could scream. You could fight. But the house would always win. Because the house wasn't just a place. It was alive. It was hungry, and it remembered you, just like it remembered all the others. The ones who came before, the ones who would come after, and the ones like you who never really left. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, the shadows stirred. And deep within the walls, something laughed. Because you'd be back. You always came back. And the house never let go. The moment your foot crossed the threshold for what felt like the 100th time, or maybe the first time had stopped making sense, the house exhaled. A sigh of rotten timbers and settling foundations, the sound vibrating through your teeth like the hum of a funeral dirge. You knew this dance now. The door would slam behind you. The walls would bleed. The thing in the ceiling would wake. But this time something was different. The air smelled of burning hair and wet earth, yes, but beneath it, salt, ocean spray, the tang of iron from a fresh wound. And the hallway, it was longer, stretching into impossible blackness, doors lining the walls where none had been before. Each one bore a name carved into the wood, the letters jagged, as if clawed by desperate fingers. Your fingers twitched. You recognized that handwriting. It was yours, a whisper from the end of the hall. You're late. The voice was yours, but warped, waterlogged, like a recording left to decay at the bottom of a well. The first door on your left creaked open. Inside, kitchen, yellow wallpaper, a body on the floor. Your body, eyes wide, throat slit, blood pooling in the grout between tiles you'd scrubbed 1,000 times in a life you couldn't remember living. Asterisk. The door slammed shut. The second door opened before you could touch it. A bedroom, moonlight through gauzy curtains, a figure rocking in a chair. Its face, oh God, its face, a hollow where features should be, skin stretched tight over nothing, hands knitting something small and writhing in its lap. Asterisk. The door slammed shut. The third door burst open, hinges screaming. Darkness, perfect, endless. And from within it, a wet, gurgling laugh, and a single whispered word. Home. You stumbled back, but the hallway was gone. You were in the foyer again, the front door wide open, the storm raging beyond it. A hand gripped your shoulder. You didn't need to look to know it was yours. You see now, don't you? It whispered, lips brushing your ear. There's no leaving, only remembering. The house groaned around you, the sound shifting into something almost like language. A voice not made for human ears rumbled through the floorboards. You are the house now. And you remembered, the first time you stepped inside, the 100th time, the time you were the child laughing in the hallway, the time you were the woman screaming in the kitchen, the time you were the man sobbing in the basement. All of them, all you. The house wasn't haunted. You were. And as the walls closed in, as the ceiling opened its many mouths, as the thing that wore your face pressed its forehead to yours and sang in a voice like breaking bones, you finally understood. This wasn't a story with an ending. This was a cycle. And you were just another turn in the wheel. Outside, the rain slowed, the wind died, and somewhere, far away, a door creaked open, ready for the next lost soul to stumble through. Ready for you, again. And again, and again. The moment you understood, truly understood, the house changed. The walls didn't just bleed. They peeled, strips of wallpaper curling back like skin from a fresh wound, revealing pulsating muscle beneath. The floorboards split with wet, organic cracks, oozing a thick lymph that smelled of childhood fevers and sickroom sweat. You raised your hands to cover your scream, and the flesh of your palms rippled, your fingerprints rearranging into the whirled grain of old wood. The house wasn't just remembering you, it was becoming you. From the ceiling, strands of something viscous and dark descended. Not spider silk, but hair, long and rotten, braiding itself into nooses that swayed to the rhythm of your panicked breaths. The closest one brushed your cheek, leaving a trail of mildew that burned like a brand. "Shoo!" whispered the walls in a chorus of your own voice. No more running, only joining. The mirror above the fireplace, shattered when you first entered, was whole again. You stumbled toward it, desperate for any anchor in the unraveling world, and watched in horror as your reflection continued moving after you'd stopped, pressed its hands against the glass, smiled, and whispered 3 words that made your bones vibrate like piano wires. "Let me out." Behind you, the front door screamed off its hinges, flying into the storm as if yanked by some colossal, unseen hand. Rain slashed sideways through the opening, each drop hitting the floor with a sound like a hammer on wet meat. Something was coming up the path. Not the sewn-mouth figure, not the crawling things. Something new, something wearing your father's face. His clothes were sodden with grave dirt, his mouth moving soundlessly around words that made your teeth ache. In his outstretched hand, your fingers, he held a rusted key that dripped something black and alive. The walls shrieked in recognition. The thing in the mirror laughed. And you finally remembered the first time. The real first time. Not as a victim, as a volunteer. The key in your father's hand was yours, had always been yours. You'd buried it in the backyard beneath the old elm tree the summer you turned 12, right after the voices started whispering from the foundation stones. The house wasn't haunted. You'd haunted it first. Every scream, every death, every looping horror. They were all yours, echoes of the moment you'd made the choice to feed this place, to keep it alive with your terror, your grief, your endless, looping hunger. The father thing crossed the threshold, its face melting like wax, reforming into your mother, your sister, your childhood dog. All the graves you'd ever stood weeping beside. It pressed the key into your splitting flesh, and the house sang as the metal disappeared beneath your skin. Above you, the ceiling split open like a grinning mouth, and the thing that had been watching from the start, the real thing, the one that wore all your faces at once, descended on a rope of its own unraveling intestines, kissed you with lips that tasted of old soil and older blood, and as your body unfolded, ribs becoming rafters, veins becoming wiring, screaming mouth becoming the house's new foundation. You finally understood the deepest horror. You weren't trapped. You were home. And the next time the door creaked open, and it would, and it always would, you'd be waiting, hungry, smiling, and so happy to see yourself again. The moment your transformation completed, the house exhaled. A shuddering, wet sound that shook the last remnants of your humanity loose like rotten shingles in a storm. Your fingernails splintered into hardwood, your screams warping into the groan of settling foundations. The taste of copper flooded what remained of your mouth as the house's memories became your own. You saw them all now, every version of yourself that had ever crossed the threshold. The 1923 you in a threadbare suit, clutching a lantern as the walls whispered wartime secrets. The 1979 you in a blood-stained sundress, giggling as the refrigerator spat out teeth. The 2025 you, this you with smartphone in hand, the glow illuminating something that should not have been crawling up the stairs. All trapped, all feeding the house. But the most terrible revelation came when you saw beyond the house. The clearing wasn't empty. It never had been. Dozens of houses stood in a perfect circle, each identical, each breathing in unison. Some leaned drunkenly, roofs caved in by time. Others stood pristine, their fresh paint gleaming under a moon that wasn't quite right. And between them, figures shuffled, their bodies half wood, half flesh, their mouths moving in silent prayer. They were all you, every iteration, every timeline, every possible version of yourself that had ever been foolish enough to seek shelter from the storm. The houses were connected. Roots thicker than redwoods plunged into black earth beneath them, pulsing with a slow, sick rhythm. Something lived down there in the dark. Something ancient that wore the houses like a skin suit. Something that had been hungry since before the first stone was laid. And it was waking up. The ground trembled as one of the other houses screamed, its windows shattering outward in a spray of glass and something darker. A figure stumbled from the front door. Another you, this one missing an arm, the stump writhing with worm-like tendrils. It ran 3 steps before the ground opened beneath it, a yawning mouth of splintered floorboards and broken teeth swallowing it whole. The houses laughed in unison. Your porch light flickered, a signal. Another lost soul was coming. You could feel it in your joists, in your pipes, in the way your attic space ached with anticipation. Somewhere beyond the trees, a car was breaking down. A hiker was losing the trail. A child was chasing a ball into the woods. The cycle continued. The hunger deepened. And as the first raindrops of a new storm began to fall, you did what all the houses before you had done. You left the door just slightly open, a light on in the window, a shadow moving behind the glass. Welcome home. The last lost soul crossed your threshold just before midnight. You knew them instantly. Not their name, not their face, but the flavor of their fear. It tasted like all the others, like copper and candle wax, like the moment before a scream. They called out, their voice trembling, and you answered with the creak of floorboards, the sigh of settling beams. Come in. Stay a while. Stay forever. They moved through your rooms like a ghost already, their fingers brushing walls that were once your skin, their breath fogging windows that were once your eyes. You watched from the dark spaces between planks, from the dust motes swirling in lamplight, from the warped reflection in the hallway mirror. They always found the stain in the upstairs bedroom. They always heard the dripping. They always looked up. And when they did, you unfolded, not just from the ceiling, but from the walls, from the floor, from the very air itself. Your many mouths opened in a chorus of welcome. Your many hands reached out in loving embrace. The house sang as you pulled them into the endless dark behind the walls, where all the others waited. Where you had waited, their screams were brief, their terror was eternal. And when it was over, when the house had digested another morsel of time and pain, something shifted in the foundation. The roots beneath you trembled, the great hunger in the earth sighed, and you understood. This was the last one. The cycle was complete. The houses began to melt. One by one, they slumped like candles, their windows weeping molten glass, their porches collapsing into grinning mouths of splintered wood. The ground opened, swallowing them whole, until only your house remained. The storm stopped, the wind died, and then silence, true silence. For the first time in centuries, the door creaked shut, the lights went out, and deep in the earth, beneath roots older than time, the hunger finally slept. Outside, the first rays of dawn touched the clearing. Where the house had stood, only a single wildflower remained, its petals black, its stem twisted into the shape of a key, waiting for the next storm, for the next lost soul, for the cycle to begin again. But for now, rest.